I remember the exact moment my family stopped being family and turned into something I had to survive. It was New Year's Eve in Missoula, Montana. My parents' house was crowded, hot from too many people and cheap champagne. My daughter sat beside me at the table, her little hands folded, trying so hard to be polite. And then he did it. My brother, the one I like to call the prince because my parents treated him like he walked on water, picked up a half-gnawed chicken wing, smirked, and dropped it right onto my daughter's plate. "You're just an outsider," he said, loud enough for the whole table to hear. "Say thank you for even being here." The bone rolled, grease staining her dress. The room went weirdly quiet for a second. And then my parents laughed. Actually laughed. My mom snorted into her wine. My dad shook his head and chuckled like it was the funniest joke he'd ever heard. My daughter's eyes filled with tears, her fork frozen halfway to her mouth. In that moment, my blood didn't just boil, it crystallized. I looked at the prince, then at my parents. And instead of screaming or crying, I heard my own voice come out low and cold. "Everyone will get what they deserve." I took my daughter's hand, stood up, and walked out. The laughter behind us echoed down the hallway as the front door slammed shut. They had no idea that was the last time they'd ever laugh at us. They had no idea what was coming. Before I dive into how that night turned into full-blown karmic nuclear fallout, do me a favor. If you care about stories where people finally stand up to toxic families, where the ATM child finally closes the vault and watches karma do its thing, hit subscribe, tap the like button, and ring that little bell so you don't miss the rest of my story or the next one. Okay. So it all started long before the chicken bone ever hit my daughter's plate. I'm Diane Larson, 35, a single mom living in Missoula, Montana. My dream was never complicated. I didn't want a mansion or some influencer life. I just wanted stability. A safe apartment. A reliable car. Enough money to buy my daughter books and ballet shoes without checking my balance 20 times. You'd think my family would want that for us too. Instead, for years, I was the family bank. I paid my younger brother's college tuition. I covered my parents' electricity bills, their late mortgage payments, their emergency credit cards. Anytime they were tight this month or just needed a little help, it was always my phone that rang. And I said yes. Over and over and over. Part of me told myself it was just what good daughters did. Another part of me, the part I'm not proud of, hoped they'd finally love my daughter the way they claim to love family. Instead, they loved my wallet. Let's talk about the prince for a second. His real name is Ethan, but calling him Ethan doesn't explain the role he played. He was the golden boy. The son my parents orbited. The baby. The future of the family. When I was 19, working 2 jobs and pregnant, my mom, Nancy, looked me straight in the eye and said, "You made your choices, Diane. We can't help you with everything. We have Ethan to think about." Fast forward, and guess who paid for Ethan's college? Yeah. Me. It started small. My dad, Dennis, called one night when my daughter was 2. "Kiddo," he said, like he was doing me a favor just by talking to me. "Ethan's got an opportunity. He got into a really good program. But tuitions? Well, let's just say your mother and I aren't as flush as we used to be." I remember balancing my daughter on my hip while stirring spaghetti with my other hand. "Dad, I don't know," I said. "I'm already behind on daycare and—" "Diane," he cut in, voice getting that disappointed edge. "You have a good job. You're good with money. Your brother's trying to build the future. Don't be selfish." Mom chimed in from the background, her voice sharp through the phone. "Family helps family. We raised you better than this." That was their favorite line. I wired the money. Thousands. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself they'd remember. That Ethan would remember. Spoiler, they didn't. If Ethan ever thanked me, I missed it. He just kept going. Books, housing, unexpected fees. It was always urgent. Always my problem to solve. And my parents? They enabled every bit of it. "He's just trying to find his path," Mom would say. "Boys mature slower," Dad added once. "He'll pay you back when he can." You know that feeling when someone says something so insane you just go quiet? That was me. I wanted to scream, "When he can. I have a kid. I have rent. I'm working my butt off while he parties at frat houses." But I swallowed it. Because in my head, there was this voice. If you keep helping, they'll love your daughter. They'll see how hard you work. They'll finally treat you like part of the family again. I clung to that like a life raft. The New Year's Eve thing wasn't random. It was just the loudest example. There were 100 small cuts before that. Like the time we were at a summer barbecue in my parents' backyard. My daughter, she was 6 then, brought over a drawing she'd made. It was this wobbly little picture of all of us holding hands. "Grandma, look," she said, beaming. "I drew us." Nancy didn't even look up from her phone. "That's nice," she mumbled. "Go show Uncle Ethan." My daughter trotted over, hopeful, holding the paper out. Ethan glanced at it, smirked, and said, "Why's my head so big? You make me look like a bobblehead, kid." He flicked the paper. It crinkled. She laughed it off, because kids do that, they bend themselves into pretzels to excuse adult cruelty. But I saw it. Later that night, Mom cornered me in the kitchen. "You shouldn't let her be so sensitive," she scolded. "She'll have a hard life if she can't take a joke." I wanted to ask why the jokes always went one way. Or like the Thanksgiving where we'd brought over a homemade pumpkin pie because my daughter wanted to help. Mom took it, sniffed it, and whispered just loud enough. "Well, we'll keep it as backup, in case we run out of the store-bought." Ethan laughed. Dad shook his head like, "Your attempts are cute but unnecessary." Every time, I told myself, "It's fine. It's just words. It's just small stuff. They're from a different generation. It's not that bad." But I felt my respect for them eroding, grain by grain. And then came New Year's Eve. My daughter was 10 by then. Old enough to understand tone, to feel humiliation stick to her skin like grease. The house was packed. Classic Missoula suburb party, neighbors, some family friends, cheap champagne, Costco appetizers. My mom loved hosting because it made her feel like some kind of queen. I remember sitting at the table trying to balance my plate and my daughter's. She wasn't eating much, just sort of poking at mashed potatoes. "You okay, Bug?" I whispered. She shrugged. "I'm fine, Mom." I knew that shrug. It meant, I'm not fine, but I don't want to make it worse. Ethan, sorry, the prince, was at the head of the table like he owned the place. One of Mom's friends had just asked how college was going. He launched into some story about how hard his workload was, how stressful finals were. Meanwhile, I knew he'd called me 2 weeks earlier asking for an extra $500 to cover some stuff, and when I pressed him, he got weirdly vague. Halfway through his story, he grabbed a chicken drumstick from the platter. He gnawed on it dramatically, talking with his mouth open, because of course he did. Then his eyes slid to my daughter. "You know you're lucky to be here, right, kid?" he said suddenly. The table went quiet. My daughter's hand froze. "W what?" she asked. He smirked. "I mean, you're not really one of us, right? You're just the guest." He held up the bone and dropped it onto her plate. "Say thank you for even being here." The bone landed with a wet thud, splattering gravy. For a split second, it felt like my heart stopped. I looked at my parents, expecting horror, some kind of shock. Instead, my mom burst out laughing, hand over her mouth like it was so cheeky. Dad shook his head, grinning. "Oh, Ethan, stop it," Mom said, but there was no actual stop in her voice. Just approval. I saw my daughter's lower lip tremble. Her eyes glossed over, fixed on that greasy bone sitting on her untouched food. Her cheeks flamed red. And something inside me clicked. I felt this cold clarity wash over me, like someone had just opened a window in a hot, suffocating room. All the times I'd paid their bills. All the times I'd sent money with shaky hands because I wasn't sure if my own rent would clear. All the times I'd swallowed my pride. For this. I stood up so suddenly my chair screeched across the tile. The whole table jumped. "Diane, what are you doing?" my dad asked, annoyed. I met Ethan's eyes first. His smirk faltered just a hair. "Everyone," I said, my voice weirdly calm, "is going to get exactly what they deserve." I picked the bone off my daughter's plate, dropped it onto Ethan's, and leaned in close so only he could hear. "Enjoy it," I whispered. "It's the last thing you're getting from me." Then I turned to my daughter. "Come on, sweetheart," I said. "We're leaving." "Diane, don't be dramatic," my mom snapped. It was a joke. I looked at her slowly. My child is not a joke. I could feel every pair of eyes on us as we walked out, my daughter clutching my arm like a lifeline. I didn't look back. The front door slammed behind us, swallowing their laughter. I had no idea exactly how they'd get what they deserved. I just knew I was done funding the people who thought humiliating my kid was entertainment. The roads were slick with snow as I drove across Missoula that night. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel. My daughter sat silently in the back seat, cheeks streaked with dried tears. "Mom?" she whispered. "Yeah, baby? Did I do something wrong?" It felt like someone punched me in the chest. "No," I said quickly. "No. You didn't do anything wrong. They did." She nodded, but I could see she didn't fully believe me yet. Kids always think it's their fault. I pulled into the driveway of a small, older house with a sagging porch. The porch light flicked on before I even cut the engine. My Aunt Helen. Ellen was my dad's younger sister, but sometimes I wondered how they were even related. Where my father was tight-lipped and judgmental, Ellen was warm and blunt in the best way, a human lie detector with a soft heart. She opened the door and took one look at us. "Oh, honey," she said. "Get in here. Both of you." Inside, her house smelled like chamomile tea and old books. My daughter went to the couch and Ellen handed her a blanket and the TV remote. "There is cocoa mix in the cabinet," Ellen told her. "Make it extra chocolatey, okay?" My daughter nodded slowly, a tiny smile twitching at the corner of her mouth. Ellen turned to me. "Kitchen. Now." We sat at her worn wooden table with 2 steaming mugs of tea between us. "Talk to me," she said softly. I hadn't planned to cry. I really hadn't. But the moment I opened my mouth, the dam broke. I told her everything, about the chicken bone, the outsider comment, my parents laughing, Ethan's smirk. And then everything behind it, the years of payments, the tuition, the bills. "Everywhere tight this month, sweetheart, can you help?" Every time I'd said yes and then eaten ramen so my daughter could have a decent lunch. Ellen listened, her face tightening with every word. Finally, she put her mug down a little too hard. "Diane," she said, "this has to stop." I know, I said quickly, wiping my eyes. "I'm so stupid. I should have seen." "Hey." Her voice cut through my spiral. "Don't call yourself stupid. They took advantage of you. That's on them." I stared at her. "You've been their bank for years," she went on. "Years. What have they actually given you in return? A chicken bone on your kid's plate? Humiliation? Guilt trips?" The truth of it hurt more than anything Ethan had ever said. "I just wanted them to love her," I whispered. "To see her as theirs. I thought if I kept helping, they were never going to treat her like Ethan," Ellen said. "You could empty your bank account and they'd still see him as the prince and you as the convenient donor." I laughed, a bitter little sound. "Convenient donor. That's about right." Ellen reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You don't owe them anything," she said firmly. "Not one more dollar. Your responsibility is to that little girl in my living room. Not to a grown man who thinks your wallet is his birthright." My mind flashed to Ethan's face at the table. The smug certainty that I was locked into this role forever. Something in me realigned. "You're right," I said. I could actually feel my resolve hardening in my chest. I'm done. I'm done being their ATM. Ellen smiled, proud and sad all at once. "There's my girl," she said. "You're stronger than you think, Diane. You always have been." Later that night, after my daughter fell asleep on Ellen's couch, I sat at the foot of the guest bed with my phone in my hand. I opened my message thread with my mom. The history there was just endless gray and blue of me sending money, sending apologies, sending explanations. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard. Part of me hesitated, I won't lie. What if they cut me off emotionally forever? What if this was the last straw and I really, truly lost my parents? Then I remembered my daughter's voice. Did I do something wrong? I started typing. I'm stopping all financial support, effective immediately. I won't be paying any more bills, tuition, or emergencies. Do not ask again. I stared at the words for a long moment. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. Then I hit send. There was no dramatic thunderclap. No sudden music cue. Just the soft glow of my phone and the sound of my aunt's old house settling. But something did change. A weight I carried for years shifted. I could breathe deeper. Everyone will get what they deserve, I had told Ethan. I hadn't understood how literal that would become. My phone started buzzing at 7:03 a.m. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Then again. And again. By 7:30, my notifications were stacked: texts, missed calls, voicemails. It was like watching a slot machine spin and land on the same three symbols: Nancy. I opened the messages. Nancy, how could you do this to us? Nancy, after everything we've done for you? Nancy, we're your parents, Diane. You don't just cut family off. Nancy, you're abandoning us. You're abandoning your own brother. A few minutes later, my dad chimed in. Dennis, we raised you better than this. Dennis, this is not how we taught you to treat family. Dennis, you're being selfish. I stared at my screen, laughing in disbelief. Selfish? After I'd spent years putting their needs above my own kids'? I didn't respond. By noon, Mom had taken it to Facebook. Of course she did. A friend from work sent me a screenshot. It was one of those vague book posts with a pastel background. Some people turn their backs on family when we need them most. But karma always comes around, broken heart emoji. The comments were full of "you deserve better, girl, and I'm here if you need to talk," crying face emoji. Nobody knew it was about me. But in Missoula? It didn't take long. At the grocery store that afternoon, I could feel the eyes. People who'd known me since high school giving me these careful, curious looks. I wanted to grab the speaker system and shout. Hey, just so everyone knows, my mom stole tens of thousands from me over a decade and humiliated my child, and I'm the bad guy? Instead, I bought cereal and went home. It didn't take long for the prince to weigh in. My phone rang again that night. Ethan's name flashed across the screen. I stared at it for a second and then answered. What? I said. Wow, he said immediately. Rude. What do you want, Ethan? I want to know what the hell is wrong with you, he snapped. You can't just cut us off. I need that money for college. There it was. Not how are you. Not what happened last night. Just I need that money. You don't need my money, I said. You want it. There's a difference. He scoffed. Are you serious? You've been helping all this time. You can't just stop. You owe me. I owe you? I repeated slowly. For what? For being family, he said, like I was dumb for asking. I actually laughed. You're 22, Ethan. You have two working, married parents. And yet somehow, the single mom is the one footing your bills? He went quiet for a second, then came back, angrier. You know what, Diane? You always act like you're better than us because you got some office job. You think that makes you special? I never thought I was special, I said. But I am finally realizing I'm not your doormat. He cursed under his breath. This is so messed up. Mom and Dad are stressed out of their minds. Dad said you're going to regret this. Dad can get a second job then, I said, my voice going cold. Or maybe stop going on those weekend fishing trips and pay his own bills. You're unbelievable, Ethan spat. You're destroying this family. There it was. The classic line. Don't you dare, I said quietly. Don't you dare say I'm destroying anything. You humiliated my daughter. They laughed. You all used me for years. If losing access to my money destroys the family, maybe the family was built on the wrong thing. He started to say something, but I'd heard enough. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From adrenaline. From finally pushing back. If you're still with me so far, here's where things go from toxic family to crime drama. And I'm not exaggerating. A week after the New Year's party, I was at work. I'm an operations manager at a financial consultancy firm in downtown Missoula. It's not glamorous, but I'm good with numbers, with systems, with spotting when things don't add up. My best friend Brenda works there too. She's one of those people who can scan a spreadsheet like it's a gossip column and immediately spot the drama. That Friday afternoon, she walked into my office, closed the door, and dropped the file folder on my desk. Her face was serious in a way that immediately made my stomach flip. Okay, don't freak out, she said. Cool, now I'm definitely going to freak out, I replied. She sat down across from me. I was reviewing a client's documents, she said. And I noticed a lender we don't usually see. It made me curious, and I realized. She hesitated. I realized I'd seen that lender before. Connected to you. Ice slid down my spine. What do you mean connected to me? I asked slowly. Brenda opened the folder. Bank statements, loan documents, emails. She flipped to the first page and turned it toward me. There it was. My name. My address. My social security number. Attached to a $10,000 personal loan. My vision tunneled. Brenda, I whispered. I never took out this loan. I know, she said quietly. That's why I pulled everything I could find. She walked me through it. The application had been done online, using my information. The contact email wasn't mine, but a burner account with my full name in it. The payments were already months behind. It was opened last year, she said. Right around the time your mom was complaining about that surprise roof repair, remember? I remembered. I had said no to bailing them out that time. It was one of the first times I'd tried to set a boundary. Apparently, Nancy had gotten more creative. How sure are you, I asked, my voice thin, that my mom did this? Brenda tapped another document. The security question answers. Some of them are things only she would know. Her maiden name is used as a password clue. And the IP address they logged for the application? She hesitated. I traced it to their house. I sat back, feeling like the room was tilting. My own mother. It wasn't just emotional manipulation anymore. It wasn't just Diane will fix it. She had literally become me on paper to get herself money. If you've ever had your stomach drop so hard you thought you'd throw up, that was me in that office. I'm so sorry, Brenda said softly. I wish I was wrong. I swallowed hard, blinking back tears. No, I said. I'm glad you told me. Thank you. You probably just saved me from my credit being destroyed without me even knowing why. Brenda leaned forward, putting a hand on my desk like she wanted to steady me through proximity. You have to call the bank, she said. Today. Report it as fraud. I'll help you put everything together. I nodded slowly. In that moment, she wasn't just my friend. She was my Megan, my ally, my validator, my you're not crazy, this is really happening and it's really wrong. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Would you confront your mom first? Pretend you didn't see it? Or go straight to the bank like I did? Let me know in the comments, because that choice changed everything. That night, after my daughter went to bed with her newest library book, I sat at my tiny kitchen table in our old apartment with all the documents laid out in front of me. Loan agreement. Email trail. IP address info. Screenshots. Copies of my ID. I dialed the bank's fraud department. Thank you for calling, the agent said. How can I help you today? My name is Diane Larson, I said, my voice a little shaky. I'm calling to report a fraudulent loan taken out in my name. We went through the whole process. Verification questions. Dates. Amounts. Okay, Ms. Larson, the agent said finally. We see the account you're referring to. You're saying you did not apply for this loan? No, I said. I did not. Someone used my identity without my permission. Do you have any idea who that might be? He asked. I closed my eyes. Yes, I said. My mother. There was a pause. All right, he said carefully. We'll need you to send in the documentation you mentioned. Once we receive it, we'll open a formal investigation. I sent everything over that night, scans of my actual driver's license, proof of my own accounts, copies of text messages where my mom complained about money around that time, all the technical data Brenda had helped me gather. When I hit send, my hands were trembling, but again, it wasn't just fear. It was anger. Cold, clear, righteous anger. If you're listening to this and thinking, I could never report my own mom, trust me, I get it. I wrestled with that guilt. But then I thought of my daughter. What kind of example would I set if I let someone, even grandma, steal from me without consequences? 2 weeks later, my phone rang while I was standing in the break room at work. Ms. Larson? The voice on the phone said. This is Daniel from the fraud department. My stomach clenched. Hi, I said. Do you have an update? Yes, he said. We've reviewed the documents you sent and compared the digital application details with other accounts. Based on our investigation, we've concluded that the loan was fraudulently opened in your name, most likely by a relative with access to your personal information. I sagged against the counter in relief. So, what happens now? I asked. We've frozen the loan account, he said. We'll be pursuing recovery from the party responsible. You won't be held liable. We may also be in touch with local law enforcement if necessary. I thanked him, hung up, and just stood there, staring at the coffee machine. She did it. She actually did it. And now, someone other than me was holding her accountable. It didn't take long for the fallout to reach my phone. That evening, Nancy called. I didn't pick up. Then Dennis called. Ignored. Finally, a text popped up from Mom. Nancy, Diane, you have to stop this. Tell the bank it was a misunderstanding. They're coming after us. Then another. Nancy, we're your parents. You can't let them do this. Please. I stared at the words. No apology. No, I'm sorry I stole from you. Just help us escape consequences. I typed back. Me, you took out a loan in my name without my knowledge. That's identity theft. This is on you. She replied almost instantly. Nancy, we were desperate. You weren't helping anymore. What were we supposed to do? Nancy, think of your father. Think of your brother. We'll lose everything. And there it was again. Not think of what we did to you, but think of everyone else. My dad chimed in. Dennis, kiddo, just call the bank and tell them you authorized it. They'll drop it. We're family. We can sort this out. I could practically hear his calm, reasonable tone. The same one he used when explaining why Ethan needed the extra money, why I should overlook the bad jokes, the digs. I took a deep breath and typed. Me, no. You did this to yourselves. I'm not withdrawing anything. 3 dots popped up. Then disappeared. Then popped up again. Nancy, you're destroying our lives. Think about what you're doing. I didn't respond. For the first time in my life, I let their panic sit with them. Word travels fast in a town like Missoula. I didn't go around broadcasting what was happening, but I didn't exactly hide either. Brenda knew. Ellen knew. A couple of close co-workers knew enough to give me supportive looks and extra coffee. My parents, on the other hand, were busy crafting their own narrative. More vague posts popped up from Nancy. Funny how some people can ruin their parents' lives and still sleep at night. Raising ungrateful children is a wound that never heals. Aunt Ellen sent me screenshots with a simple caption, ignore the noise. Meanwhile, the real consequences were hitting. My cousin mentioned, casually, that my parents were selling their SUV. The shiny one? I asked. The one they bought last year? Yeah, he said. Your mom said something about tight times. Tight times. Like they hadn't been living beyond their means for years while assuming I'd fill in the gaps forever. A few weeks later, I drove past their house on my way to Ellen's. There it was, a for sale sign hammered into the front lawn. The house I'd grown up in. The perfect suburb symbol they clung to like it defined them. I pulled over a block away and just sat there. Part of me felt a sharp spear of guilt. They were losing their home. That was big. Massive. Another part of me, the part that remembered the bone on my daughter's plate, the loan in my name, the years of entitlement, whispered. They did this. Not you. I chose to listen to that part. About a month after the bank investigation started, I came home from work to find an envelope shoved under my apartment door. No stamp. No address. Just my name in handwriting I knew better than my own. I stood in the hallway, holding it, my heart pounding. I opened it. Inside was a 2-page letter, each line filled with that neat cursive I used to watch write birthday cards and grocery lists. Diane. You have torn this family apart. You have turned your back on the people who raised you. We are losing everything because of your stubbornness. Your father is sick with worry. Ethan is devastated. You need to fix this. Call the bank. Tell them you made a mistake. You can start sending money again. We can put this behind us and be a family. If you don't, you will regret it. You will be alone when you need us. Think very carefully about what you're doing. Mom and Dad. I read it once. Twice. Every line screamed the same theme. You did this. You fix it. You owe us. Not a single word of accountability. Not one sentence that even hinted at remorse. Just threats disguised as concern. I crumpled the letter in my fist, then smoothed it back out. For a second, I pictured driving over there, slamming that paper on their kitchen table, and yelling until I lost my voice. Instead, I took a picture of it, sent it to Brenda and Ellen, then slid it into a folder labeled evidence. Because at that point, that's what my parents' words were to me. Not guidance. Not authority. Evidence. That letter was my line in the sand. After I put it away, I sat on my couch, opened my phone, and went through my contacts. Nancy, Mom. Block. Dennis, Dad. Block. Ethan. Block. Facebook. Instagram. Messaging apps. I blocked them everywhere. Each time I hit that button, I felt a little lighter, like I was cutting one more thread that had been tying me down, keeping me in the role I never chose. Did it hurt? Yeah. Of course it did. These were the people who'd taken me to school, wrapped presents for me as a kid, held my hand crossing the street. Grief and anger can coexist. Mine did. But my daughter was in the next room, humming to herself as she colored. She had no idea I was in the middle of amputating half of my family. I looked at her and knew. I wasn't doing this to my parents. I was doing this for her and for me. With my parents cut off and the lone mess being handled, it was time to make a physical change too. I'd been hanging on to our old apartment partly out of nostalgia and partly because moving felt like one more big thing. It was on the outer edges of town, a little dark, a little sad. But when my lease renewal came up, I hesitated. Brenda slid a rental listing across my desk one afternoon. "You should look at this," she said. It was for a small but bright two-bedroom apartment downtown. Walking distance to my office. Big windows. A tiny balcony. "It's a little more than what I'm paying now," I said, scanning the numbers. "You just cut off the financial black hole known as your family," she pointed out. "You can afford to put that money into your own life now." I went to see it that weekend. The moment we stepped inside, my daughter ran to the window. "Mom," she gasped. "Look. You can see the mountains from here." The living room was flooded with sunlight. The walls were bare and full of potential. I imagined her doing homework at the table while I cooked. I imagined not having to drive 25 minutes to work in the snow. I imagined building a space that was truly, undeniably, ours. "I think this is it," I told the leasing agent. A month later, we were hauling cardboard boxes through that doorway. Ellen showed up with pizza and a toolkit. Brenda brought fairy lights and a plant you're not allowed to kill. My daughter taped her drawings to her new bedroom wall, arranging them carefully. "This is our home now, isn't it?" she asked that night, curling up on her new bed. I sat beside her and smoothed her hair. "Yeah, sweetheart," I said. "Just ours." I lay awake late into the night listening to the sounds of downtown Missoula, distant traffic, someone laughing on the sidewalk, a train horn far away. No buzzing phone. No nasty texts. No guilt. Just quiet. For the first time in a long time, the quiet didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like peace. Spring came to Montana in that slow, reluctant way it does, snow one day, sunshine the next. I threw myself into work. Without my parents' crises eating up my mental bandwidth, I was sharper, more focused. I stayed late because I wanted to, not because I needed the overtime to cover someone else's missed payment. One Tuesday morning, my manager called me into his office. He looked nervous and excited. "Diane," he said, "I'll get straight to it. The regional director position is open. We've been watching how you've handled the Missoula office, and," he smiled, "we want you in that role." For a second, all I could do was stare. Regional director. A big promotion. A significant raise. More responsibility, yeah, but more control too. Wow, I managed. "Thank you. I don't know what to say." "Say yes," he laughed. "Yes," I said. "Absolutely yes." When I walked out of that office, I wanted to call my mom. To hear her say, "I'm proud of you." Old habits die hard. Instead, I called Ellen. "You earned this," she said, voice glowing with pride. "You fought for it. I'm so proud of you, kiddo." Then I called Brenda. "Regional director money?" she said. "I'm coming over." We're celebrating with the cheap champagne you can now afford to upgrade. We sat on my balcony that evening, watching the sun drop behind the mountains, drinking bubbly from mismatched mugs. You know, Brenda said, none of this, she gestured around, would have happened if you were still spending all your money and energy on them. I thought about that. She was right. As long as my parents saw me as an endless resource, I'd been sprinting on a treadmill, exhausted but never moving forward. Cutting them off had given me my life back. While my career was leveling up, the most important changes were happening at home. My daughter started going to dance classes with Ellen. Thursday afternoons, Ellen would pick her up from school and take her to this small studio run by a former ballerina whose idea of encouragement was try again, but with more joy. At first, my daughter was timid. She stayed in the back row, movements small, eyes darting around like she was waiting for someone to laugh. But after a few weeks, something shifted. She started practicing at home. Spinning across our living room, arms out, giggling when she wobbled. One evening, she stopped mid-twirl. "Mom?" she asked. "Yeah? Do we have to go see Grandma and Grandpa again?" I paused. "No," I said carefully. "We don't." She studied my face, searching for something. "Did I do something wrong? At their house?" she asked quietly. My throat tightened. "No, baby," I said, pulling her into a hug. "You didn't do anything wrong. They did. They were mean. And I'm not going to make you go anywhere people are mean to you." She hugged me back, really hard. "Okay," she whispered. "I like it better here." That was the moment I knew I'd made the right choice. Any lingering guilt I had about being the daughter who walked away shrank. We were building our own small, sturdy world. One where love wasn't conditional on the size of my bank transfers. By the time summer rolled around, my parents had sold the house. They downsized to a rental across town. I heard through the grapevine that Ethan had dropped out of college for now. That the bank had made things very uncomfortable. Did I dance around my living room in celebration? No. Their collapse didn't make me happy. It just felt appropriate. Like the universe bookkeeping had finally caught up. They built a life on the assumption that I would always be there to patch the holes. When that assumption disappeared, so did the illusion of stability. That wasn't my revenge. My revenge was quieter. It was my daughter's laughter as she spun in our living room. It was my promotion letter sitting in a frame on my desk. It was the absence of panicked calls, of vague Facebook posts that twisted reality. It was knowing that their smear attempts had fizzled, that people who mattered saw through it. That the folks who knew the real story, Ellen, Brenda, a few old neighbors, stood on my side. I never posted my side on social media. I never subtweeted them. I never tried to expose them publicly. I didn't have to. Their choices exposed them far better than I ever could. So, if you've listened this far, here's what I want to say directly to you, especially if you're the responsible one, the stable one, the bank in your family. You do not owe anyone your destruction. Not your parents. Not your siblings. Not the sibling they call the prince while they call you selfish. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to cut off financial access. You're allowed to report fraud, even if it's your own mother. You're allowed to block people whose favorite weapon is guilt. You're allowed to build a life where your child doesn't have to wonder if they're an outsider at their own grandparents' table. Blood alone doesn't earn access to your bank account, your peace, or your kid. Family is the people who show up for you, not the ones who show up for your money. If you're in a situation like mine, if your stomach knots every time your phone rings because you know it's another favor dressed up as love, ask yourself. If I stopped paying, would the relationship still exist? If the answer is no, that's your answer. Guard what you've worked for. Guard your credit. Guard your mental health. Guard your kids. Setting boundaries isn't betrayal. It's self-respect. And sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't screaming or shutting people down online. It's quietly stepping away. Letting them sit in the mess they made. And building a life so peaceful, so solid, that their chaos can't touch it. That's what I did. I'm Diane. I'm not my family's ATM anymore. I'm just a mom in Missoula, raising a daughter who knows her worth. And that, to me, is the best justice I could ever ask for. If this story hit close to home for you, tell me in the comments. Have you ever been the responsible one that everyone leaned on until you broke? What would you have done at that New Year's table? And if you want more stories like this, about boundaries, betrayal, and real-life karmic justice, don't forget to subscribe, hit like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for listening to my story.